Hello, everybody, wherever you are in the world viewing this webinar, Surviving on Caffeine and AI, a prompt workshop for student parents. Next slide, please. Just so you're aware, we are going to be doing some interactive polling during this session. We're also very willing to hear questions that you've got. So if you've got anything that you want to share with us, please do so during the course of the webinar and post any ideas at any time. We're going to be paying attention there. And then all slides and materials will be shared afterwards with those of you who registered. And as you already know, it's being recorded. So if you missed something while you're viewing today, or you weren't able to attend today, you'll be able to actually see it. So next slide. So what we're going to cover. So we're going to do a little bit about the lab. Why are you talking? Who is this guy? Who are these people? We're going to do a little bit of an AI overview where we can talk a little about tools, trends, and safety. Then we're actually going to get into the meat of the webinar, which is some prompting, and then we'll wrap up with some key takeaways. Go ahead to the next slide. So about the lab, here you go. Here is our student, parent, learner team, and I am so happy to represent this group today. My name is Don Fraser. I am the Senior VP for Design and Innovation here at the lab. I've been with the lab since January 2015, when we were just an idea that was emerging, and we were carving out some space in this complicated ecosystem that we call work and learning. My team, from left to right on the screen, Rebecca Ramos, who's our senior education designer, Camille Seward, who is a senior associate designer, Brianna Shaw, student parent co-designer, and Miriam Swords-Kalk, head of design practice. This crack team is doing incredible work right now on our student parent learner project, AKA SPORG. If you've heard of that, then you know it's a community that we have created that is all run by and informed by student parents. So we're very proud of the work that we're doing as part of this project. And you'll hear more about that as we go, but join the community, join that SPORG community. Okay, next slide. So again, the lab, we design education towards the future of work, and we're thinking about this with learners in mind. So, we think about frontline workers, single parents, non-degreed adults, first-gen students, all populations who've been historically left on the sideline or not designed for or with. And we're trying to change that. So a lot of the obstacles exist right now for learners in education and in the workplace are ones that we care about changing. And we do it not just with our institutional partners and employer partners, but other ecosystem partners, and of course, having those learners and their voices at the table as well. Next slide, please. We use the power of design. So Education Design Lab, design is in our name itself. And that's a pedagogy on which we were founded. It's this idea of using design thinking initially in the early days, and then that evolved a little bit to talk more about human-centered design. And this visual on the screen that you're seeing right now represents the way in which we work, from the point of being as close to the problem as we can within communities. We're not always able to put boots on the ground, but we want to make sure that we have a deep understanding of the communities in which we are trying to work with. And then if you think about this as a transformation funnel, we identify those problems, those areas that need to be addressed. We think about co-designing and innovating around what those solutions might look like. And then obviously really striving for transformation, long-term transformation and impact. Next slide, please. This particular slide came out of our first round of work around single moms. We were trying to design so that we can help 5 community colleges improve their completion rates for single moms. And this framework was developed as part of it. And this comes from self-determination theory, which is decades old. But you're going to hear a little bit about that. You're going to feel this hopefully today, this idea that growth, belonging, and agency are really key to engagement. So when we think about the work that we do, when we think about the design that we do, we want to ensure that we are understanding the ways in which we are able to increase learners' sense of growth, learners' sense of belonging, learners' sense of agency. Next slide. And when we first started taking on work around AI, which is coming up on a couple of years ago, we had this idea in mind, right? To just talk to everyday folks, people in our ecosystem, partners we might work with, to understand how they were interacting with AI, how they're viewing it through their own growth, their own agency, their own belonging. So if you want to learn more and check out the featured profiles, there is a QR code on the screen. You could also go to our website. Okay, next slide. So we're going to jump right in now. We're going to start thinking about a couple of polls, right? So first poll we're going to put up here. How often do you use generative AI? Rarely, sometimes, daily. Okay, so we've got a battle going on here, but this seems pretty clear that most people, at least viewers, and maybe this audience is already a band of super users around AI, but most people are saying daily. 2/3 of the people on the call saying they use it daily. Okay. So go ahead to the next slide. We're going to talk a little bit about some key considerations as we head into the conversation here. Okay. So, back up one slide. Thank you. So, I mean, the first real key consideration is how do you do a webinar on AI and have it um, not be out of date by the time the webinar is actually over? That is the challenge. So, some things you're not going to hear today are like versions of large language models or dates and things like this, because the technology is changing so rapidly that by the time I talk about something, I mean, they're working on all these things I'm going to be talking about today, right? So things are going to change rapidly, but I do want to call out some things that if, for example, you're using a free version of a large language model, then you're probably going to encounter some limitations of how you can use it and also how often you can use it. You might be limited by the number of uploads. You might be limited in some ways by the information. There's a greater chance that you're going to experience some hallucinations. And if you know what I mean by that, it means some incorrect information where generative AI is just imagining what the um, next data point should be. So it could be inaccurate. And that's also hard in some of the freer models to actually know where did this information come from? They're not citing it, so it's not quite clear. So these are just some key considerations I want to lay out before we dive in today. On generative AI tools, here are listed ones that are most popular, and I'm talking about this from the perspective of a daily user, not necessarily a business, because you'd actually flip the number one and two here. ChatGPT is right now the one large language model that most people, everyday people, are using. It was one that burst on the scene, captured everybody's attention, and has been advancing in a lot of different ways. So a lot of users jumped right on that one and been hanging with it. But other models have come on the scene, like Claude from Anthropic. And if you're talking to businesses, you would flip that, and Claude has actually got the market share from an enterprise perspective around corporations. But you can see on these bullet points some of the things, just a couple of things that maybe would distinguish one particular AI tool for another, why somebody might use it. And also, you've got some visuals, right? So beyond the language models, all the way down this list of Perplexity, then you got Midjourney and Dolly, and now you're talking about visuals and images for you creatives out there. Less popular, but maybe also worth considering would be DeepSeek and Llama, which is by Meta. And maybe those are familiar to you, but if you're, trying tools out, you should check them all out, especially if you're using free versions. It's a good opportunity to be able to like, oh, I'm out of, I'm limited now on this particular one, but I still need to get some answers. I might be using multiple tools at the same time. So you will figure it out the more you use it if you haven't already. Okay, next slide. Okay, so we're going to poll just around these tools just to get, again, a sense of which tool people in our audience might use most. Okay, not surprisingly, ChatGPT winning this race. So you could see GPT, Gemini, Google. Yep. Okay, let's keep marching on. Talk briefly about trends. And maybe this is why Gemini is getting a lot of love in our poll. Everyday integration into tools that you might use frequently, and I think everybody is seeing this and feeling this. So in our browsers, if you're a Google user, you're seeing Gemini popping up there where it used to be a standalone. Now they've integrated it. And other tools that you probably are using, you're seeing AI features being added, integrations being added. So all of a sudden, Claude had just showed up in our Slack, tools that we use frequently at the lab. So now we can leverage Claude as part of our work in Slack, as well as Perplexity. So you're going to see a lot more of that. Then, of course, you've got AI assistants. Back up a second. AI assistants for scheduling and organization, and then other trends would be voice and multimodal AI, right? So it used to be initially you're just typing something in, get it back, and then it would play it back. You'd be able to hear, but now you can interact, and it's actually able to see, which is very cool. And then personal AI tutors for coursework. And I know if we're talking about student parent learners, that one in particular is probably of interest. And what's coming, next slide. This is on us now, but if you've been paying attention, people are talking about this notion that AI, instead of you prompting it, it's going to be prompting you. So this idea that it will anticipate your needs based upon the things that you do on a daily basis. So it's kind of crazy to think that how quickly we've come from generative AI bursting on the scene, and now we're at this point where ChatGPT Pulse is just rolled out, not available to everybody yet. If you want to pay and you're a GPT Pro user, then you can dabble in it. But people have different feelings about this, right? So this notion that I'm going to get a pulse as soon as I kind of turn on my device in the morning, and it's going to have curated the things that matter to me, and it's going to be looking out for me as technology, instead of me saying, imagine a world, instead of you saying, hey, Alexa, or hey, Siri, it's going to be prompting you and talking to you first before you even ask it anything. Okay, next slide. The other thing I'll just touch on, because, hey, this is for student parents, and we know we care deeply about safety. So I do want to touch on, before we get into the world of prompting, using AI safely. So things like double checking the facts, Right? We know AI can make mistakes. Protecting privacy. Don't share personal information, family information. Be mindful if you're using it as as part of your as a partner in your schoolwork. Be mindful of plagiarism. Certainly use child-safe AI tools, particularly around homework support, and balance that use, right? AI is not a replacement. It's really meant to be a support helper. And I added this one at the bottom. Be nice to your AI. Practicing kindness is always a good thing. And while, if you actually Google this, you'll find different responses and beliefs out there about whether or not AI matters if you're kind to it. I know that I'm going to be, because if you go to the next slide, you never know what the future holds. And I want to be somebody who could sit and have a cup of coffee in peace with my robot friend. I do not want to be known as that person who was rude to my AI over the years, and then it's coming for me. Okay, we're going to jump in and start doing some prompting. So hit the next slide. For some people, it still does feel a little like magic, right? But it's really just about practice and finding ways to get the most out of the technology. So I'm going to share some tips on how to do that. So if you go to the next slide. There's a host of frameworks out there. If you ever taken a prompt engineering class, or you watch any videos, or you just trying to understand what's going on out there, everybody's talking about some very different things. Google may have a framework around it, or GPT may have a framework around it. But if you look across them, these are generally the kinds of things that you're going to see. They talk about things like providing context, right? Um, Giving more details around the role or the persona, right? It's this idea of please act like and you tell the AI to act like a particular type of person. Being clear about the task that you're asking so that you get the desired action or output. Providing examples, right? The more, again, that you can provide from references, the better. Formatting, right? So if there's a structure and you want it in a table format, or you want it in a PowerPoint format, you can ask for things like that. Tone, setting the desired voice or style, depending on how you're using it again. If you're going to be sending an email to somebody, right, then you want a professional voice. Or at least if it's a business colleague. If it's a friend, maybe you don't want a professional voice. And then finally, iteration, the process of refining, right? So we're going to talk about that a lot today too. Next slide. As I set out on this journey to pull this webinar together, Brianna said, hey, Don, here is the organization of the categories you should be thinking about. Because we went into the saying, like, how can we make this useful? How can we think about prompts that student parents will be able to use in these categories, right? So academic and learning, and then she gave me some more details: writing, study help, tutoring, time management. These are all things that we have gathered talking directly to student parents. And Brianna, of course, is also a student parent, so she knows a little something about this. She mentioned professional and career, and resumes, email, scheduling, right? These types of things. Parenting and household, things that make you, your everyday stuff that are going around: homework help, meal planning, timing, all these things. And then finally, personal well-being, emotional support therapy like uses and things of that nature. I did leave that one out for the sake of today, but you should know that currently the number one use for generative AI is therapeutic in nature. It's companionship, which is new this year. So we're seeing a change. Go ahead to the next slide. So that was my context. What did I do? All right, well, I said, I'm going to use this webinar to walk you through the way in which that I used AI to help me with this, the content for this webinar. So here's my prompt. I said, please See that? Please create a slide deck for a webinar focused on helping college students who are also parents understand ways in which they can use generative AI in their daily lives. Now, recognize that as I type this, I'm not striving for perfection, right? I'm actually, in some ways, as part of this exercise, I was giving it some information, not all information. Maybe I could have written it a little more clearly the first go around, but this was all by design. The title of the webinar is Surviving on Caffeine and AI, a prompt workshop for student parents. And then I gave it a little bit of context. These student parents are typically working part-time or full-time while enrolled in college. They are time-starved. They often struggle financially and have to depend on systems to support their everyday needs, like childcare at the college. And then I asked them, used Brianna's content. These slides should cover the following sections. Okay, I wanted to include a little bit of background, trends, safety, all things you saw, and the sample prompts, which there is Brianna's language right there at the bottom. Okay, so go ahead and next slide. And presto, momentarily, right after I get the response, I've created the full slide deck for your webinar. Brilliant, wonderful. Tells me what it includes. Background on the most popular Gen AI tools, trends and upcoming uses, cautionary tales for safe and responsible use, and then 15 ready-to-use prompts across those areas. So what did I do? Well, all right. The first thing I got to do is examine the output. So you go to the next slide. You know, this is whatever you get at first, you know, kind of face value is something you got to look at. So I open that PowerPoint, and here we go. Here is my beautiful deck that ChatGPT pulled together for me. Now, if I were to roll this particular deck out, I'm probably going to get a less than welcome response from Brianna. If I said, "Here you go, Brianna, like there's that deck. This is what GPT gave me. I gave it that prompt and that awful looking deck." Yes. So obviously I had to get to work, right? Next slide. So what did I do? I dove in a little further on the prompts that they gave me around the academics and learning. I wanted to know, what did they give me? So I went in there and I read those prompts. So I pulled them out, right? And if I were to type these prompts in to GPT, you know, I might get something decent, right? Create a weekly study plan for my classes and part-time job. Draft a scholarship application essay outline based on my goals. Generate practice quiz question for my biology exam. Explain this article to me like I'm in high school, and then you paste the text in. Or summarize the key points from this chapter in 5 bullet points. Yeah, not too bad, right? Go on to the next couple slides. So I went to professional employment. What do they give me there? Make a one-page summary of my LinkedIn profile highlights. Rewrite my resume, focusing on customer service skills. Just 3 online courses to build project management skills. Draft a professional email requesting a schedule change at work. And then lastly, help me practice answers for a job interview in retail. I went on to the parenting and household section. Create a healthy meal plan for a family of 4 on a budget. Just fun indoor activities for kids under 10 on rainy days. Draft a weekly household chore schedule my kids can follow. Give me budgeting tips for managing part-time income and tuition. And then lastly, summarize my child's math homework instructions in plain English. Okay, so I looked at those prompts and I thought to myself, well, if I were to hand these prompts over to Brianna, I would probably get a similar reaction. I don't think she'd be that thrilled with these prompts. While they're not terrible, they are not that targeted, right? It took my first prompt and that's what it gave me. And as I dug in deeper, I went to look at them, right? Understand the output. And then I decided, hey, I'm not sure I like this. So I'm going to ask this poll. It's around satisfaction. How satisfied are you with the first answer you typically get from your AI tool? Okay, I could see that most people are somewhat satisfied. And then we've got, a couple of people on the extremes between being extremely satisfied and then not really satisfied. So most people are like, yeah, this is helpful, right? Um, but maybe it can do more. So that was what I was after. I needed more, right? That wasn't good enough to me and for me, particularly for this webinar. So what I do, I went back in and I said, I need more iteration and I'm going to give it a little bit more context. So I say, the prompts you gave me could be improved. Remember, this is for people who are single parents working part-time or full-time, are also enrolled in community college. They are time-starved, stressed out, often don't have much disposable income, and are struggling to find good childcare. Then I tell them instead of that list of 5, provide 2 prompts for each of the examples are provided in the academic and learning, professional and career, and parenting and household sections. Academic and learning prompts should be geared towards helping their school-age child. They don't have money for tutors and sometimes don't understand the content, so they want to be able to use AI to act as a tutor for their child. The professional and career prompts should be focused on their reality as single parents who are trying to figure out how to improve their lives. And then finally, the parenting and household section should focus on time saving, but also it's very important to put their child's health and well-being first. Okay, so GPT says, hey, got it. Thanks for the clarification. This really helps me tailor the prompts to lived realities of single parents who are juggling school, work, parenting, and financial stress. Below are improved, more practical prompts designed to meet those needs. Each section has 2 prompts per example, an emphasis on time saving, affordable solutions, and child well-being. Sounds good to me. Let's examine the output. Here we go. So now it's broken down. The academic and learning section, supporting their child's learning. These prompts assume, back up for a second. These prompts assume the parent may not fully understand the material and needs AI to act as a patient, affordable tutor for their child. And then look at the homework help. Explain this 5th grade math problem step by step as if you're tutoring my child and give me 2 examples you can practice together. Then you insert the problem. Prompt 2, create a short, simple explanation of photosynthesis for a 7th grader with a practice quiz I can go over with them. Under study planning, make a simple weekly study plan for my child that includes 15 minutes a day of reading and math practice, but still leaves time for play. Suggest free online practice resources for my child who is struggling with fractions and show me how to use them in short daily sessions. And then finally, on scholarships and pathways, write a draft response or a scholarship essay prompt about perseverance as a single parent in college. And then lastly, summarize the steps I need to take to apply for financial aid at my community college and highlight which forms are most urgent. So as you can see, way more detail in these prompts, right? So if I were to put these prompts now into chat, I'm more likely to get the kind of response I'm looking for. Go ahead to the next one. Professional and career. And again, improving life with limited time and resources. Let's look at these prompts. GPT tells us these prompts are for realistic career moves, not lofty goals that require resources parents don't have. So around resumes, rewrite my resume to highlight transferable skills from retail and caregiving that would make me a strong candidate for an entry-level office job. Second one, make a version of my resume that focuses on customer service skills and reliability for a better paying retail or hospitality job. Under job prep, give me 5 practice interview questions for a part-time receptionist role. Allow me to talk about being dependable, even as a single parent. Create short professional answers to explain schedule flexibility during an interview without oversharing personal struggles. And finally, under skill development, just free or low-cost online courses that can help me move from retail into administrative jobs with time estimates for completion. Make a 20-minute daily learning schedule I can realistically stick to while working part-time in parenting. Way more detail, right? Way more focused and taking into account the context I gave it. Next slide. Now, parenting and household, time-saving, health-focused, and affordable. Listening, it's hearing me. These prompts emphasize child well-being, nutrition, and stress relief while saving time for the parent. Under meal planning, plan 5 healthy low-cost dinners for a week that can be cooked in under 30 minutes and stretch into leftovers. Give me 3 packed lunch ideas for my child that are affordable, healthy, and easy to prepare when I'm exhausted. Under chores and scheduling, make a simple weekly household chore chart I can do with my child that keeps the house clean in less than 20 minutes a day. Just time-saving hacks for laundry, cooking, and homework routines so I can spend more quality time with my child. And then under child's well-being, list 5 no-cost or low-cost activities that will keep my child active and happy after school without screens. And then finally, give me strategies to help my child manage stress and anxiety about school when I don't always have time to sit with them, right? So the reality of student parents starts to come through now, and these prompts that they give, that I gave them. And this is what chat giving itself flowers. These prompts are specific, empathetic, and realistic for single student parents who need support that saves time, reduces costs, and prioritizes their child's health and learning. Right. So I gave it a persona. I helped it better understand who this should be designed for. And what you all are getting here is not just the methodology, right? This idea of like providing the context and iteration, but getting the prompts, right? So instead of me just coming to this webinar and saying, here you go, here are a list of prompts in these areas, I want you to see how I actually got there, because it's the kind of steps you can take in improving prompts for yourself. But also there are going to be some great ones you could lift just right off of this deck for your own use. Okay, let's keep rolling. I got to that point. I said, am I good with this? Nah. What if I would change them, right? So I said to ChatGPT, would the prompts change if I gave you more information about what my typical day looks like? The response, yes, absolutely. The more specific your daily routine, constraints, and stress points are, the better I can tailor the prompts so they feel like real life savers instead of generic AI tips. For those of you who responded somewhat satisfied, that's probably what you're feeling, generic AI tips. So right now, the prompts I created are designed for a broad picture of a single parent, of single student parents. If you share details about your typical day, I can tighten the prompts to your reality, prioritize the right tasks, match time blocks, reduce decision fatigue, right? And it says, think of it like giving me a blueprint of your day. I can then make AI prompts that fit right into the cracks of your schedule. Sounds good. So that's what I did. So I wrote, I'm a single parent, I have one child, a boy who's 9 years old and in 5th grade. My life is incredibly busy because in addition to being a single parent, I have a full-time job and I'm enrolled at local community college where I take 3 classes per semester. My typical day looks like this. And I'm not going to read it all, but you can see in there that I kind of go from morning until bedtime, right? Juggling all the things between, taking my son to school, getting my son home, getting myself to class, right? So I gave it enough context so it could understand what an average day might look like, and it responds. Thank you. This is really powerful context. Your day shows exactly where the pressure points are. Mornings are rushed, afternoons are split between parenting and class, evenings are overloaded with homework and chores. Based on this, I'll refine the prompts so they fit into the cracks of your day and directly support the rhythm of being a full-time worker, student, and single parent of a 9-year-old, what I told him or her, depending on if, or maybe your chat doesn't have a gender. So I examine the output. What do I have? Academic and learning, supporting your 9-year-old, right? So now it's including that context. When you don't have time, but want your son supported in schoolwork. So homework help after dinner. Explain my 5th grader's math homework in simple steps and give me 2 practice problems he can try on his own. The topic is, and then you paste it in. Turn my son's spelling words into a 10-minute practice game we can play before bedtime. Quick study boosts. Summarize the science chapter for 5th grade in kid-friendly language with a short quiz I can ask him during breakfast tomorrow. Just 3 free, fun resources, videos, games, worksheets for 5th graders struggling with fractions that can be done in 15 minutes. Okay, keep going. I went a step further. I was like, you know what? I kind of like that one prompt. Hit the next slide. So I said, I like this. Can you actually do it? Turn my son's spelling words into a 10-minute practice game we can play before bedtime. So I gave it some words, 15 words the 5th grader might need to spell. And it went on. Love it. Let's turn those spelling words into a fun 10-minute bedtime game you and your son can play together. The key is to mix learning with play so he remembers the words but doesn't feel like he's doing homework. Brilliant. Love it. So again, I examine the output. Professional and career, right? So when you're thinking about improving life, but time and energy are scarce, resumes that reflect your life. Rewrite my resume to highlight liability, multitasking, and problem-solving skills I use daily as a single parent and full-time worker. Condense my resume to one page, focusing on customer service and admin skills so I can apply to higher paying jobs quickly. Second, job prep that respects your time. Give me 5 common interview questions for an entry-level office job and short sample questions that explain my dependability as a parent without oversharing. Draft a short professional explanation of why I can only work until 3 p.m. because of childcare, but still emphasize my reliability. And then finally, learning that fits into small windows. Suggest 3 free online courses I can finish in 20-minute chunks at night to move from retail clerical into better paying office roles. Make me a 15-minute daily learning routine that I can realistically do after my son's bedtime. You're feeling it, right? Hopefully you're seeing the difference now. The deeper the context, the more the detail, the better the prompts. Parenting household, time saving and well-being, an area that we know parents desperately need because health, energy, and your son's happiness come first. Meals that don't break you. Plan 5 affordable, healthy dinners for a week that take less than 30 minutes to cook and include leftover ideas for lunches. Give me 3 quick breakfast and lunch options that my 9-year-old can help prepare so mornings are easier. Chores and evening chaos. Interesting. Create a weekly chore chart that gives my son small age-appropriate responsibilities like setting the table, putting clothes away to ease my load. Suggest ways to streamline laundry, homework, and bedtime routines so I'm not exhausted by 9 p.m. And then child's well-being and free time. List 5 no-cost activities my son and I can do together after school that reduces screen time and help us bond. Give me short, calming exercises I can do with my son if he feels anxious or overwhelmed at school. Again, flowers, giving itself flowers. Why do these prompts work for your schedule? Morning, because those quick prompts for lunch and breakfast planning and bite-sized study aids. And the workday, nothing heavy. I can prep interview practice or course recs in the background. Evening, focus on time-saving dinner help, child's homework support, and manageable learning for you. In nighttime, post 9 p.m., AI helps you study, write, or apply for jobs in very focused, efficient ways. So I took that a step further. I decided, well, I'm going to give it some context, but I'm going to add something. So I gave it a lot of that context I gave it earlier, but then I added this prompt that came up somewhere. Create a healthy meal plan for the two of us for a week. I'm on a tight budget. I'd like to be able to cook different meals, but also have leftovers. Got it, says chat. Thank you for sharing your schedule and context. Since you're balancing work, school, and parenting, the key will be meal planning around your busiest windows, focusing on budget-friendly, kid-friendly meals that generate leftovers you can reheat, repurpose. Here's a 7-day healthy meal plan for you and your son. Not going to give you the whole 7 days, but give you a taste. General strategy. So it gave me like, hey, you got to do some more batch cooking. Freezer-friendly items, kid-friendly favorites with a healthy twist, budget-minded staples. So that's a strategy. Now here's a couple of the days in the next slide. So you can see day one, that's my batch cook day. Assuming I've got more time, maybe because I didn't tell them I didn't, that here you go. And it tells me what I could be doing on day one for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. On day two, Monday, again, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And day three, Tuesday. So it gives you some sense of the ways in which you can push the generative AI to go a step further than it did. It's not going to go there on its own. You have to prompt it. At least it's not going to yet. So we're still in this place where you got to give it enough information, you got to share more, you got to say more, you got to nudge it to give you something more. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of these key takeaways. Context matters a lot, right? So I think you've already all seen that. The more information you can provide, the better the output. And that comes in the form of details as you saw me do today, but other things that I was messing around with didn't include here, but that you can do is like you can go into let's talk about the food example. You can go into your pantry, take a picture. Here's what I got. This is what I've got to work with, right? I actually went into my fridge, and the crazy thing is that I had some leftover chicken in foil, and it actually said like, assuming that's chicken in that foil, and I was like, what the hell? How did it know there was chicken in that foil? It was really small. It didn't look like it wasn't shaped like a chicken. It was just flat in foil. But I was pretty impressed. And I don't want to put the picture up because my fridge is a little embarrassing, like what's in there. Maybe a little TMI, but you can do something like that, right? So the more context you can give it, the better. Iteration is key. And that's just, as designers here at the lab, that's something we live by, right? I was iterating on this, into the morning hours, right? Trying to work on, is this the right way I want to deliver this? I had one direction in mind, and then I decided yesterday I wanted to go a different direction because I felt like I wanted to bring the experience that I was using with generative AI to the group to see the train of thought. And you can then kind of follow that, but also, again, walk away with the object here was to equip student parent learners with really good prompts that they could use or examples of prompts they could use across some key areas. Reviewing responses for errors. You know this, right? AI is far from perfect. And as I said at the top, if you are somebody who is using a free version, right, then you may run into more errors than other people. So you're not the primary customer if you're a free user. So sometimes you get deprioritized as a user. And you will run out of uploads, and it will give you information that maybe is outdated, as I said at the top of the call. So remember, it's far from perfect. You just always review things and make sure that it looks good to you. And then, of course, trying different AI tools. We know some are better than others for certain tasks, right? And as I've been reading and listening to lots of different people and some of the different tools, you can hear reasoning for people about how they like kind of fell in love with a particular tool for a long time, but then abandoned it after trying another tool. So personal preference, it wasn't always because it was better at a particular task. It just felt like it was more in line with what they needed to do, how it generally responded to them, the type of information it got back. So you may find that you also have a personal preference. And then finally, as I said, important to stay safe out there. Um, for student parents, we know that um, the safety of your children and the many things that you're juggling is to be able to make it through the day, make it through the week. Um, Sometimes feel like dicey, right? We hear the stories. I hear from my team, and we're listening all the time to the student parents who work with us, and primarily we hear all the time that everything they're doing is for the sake of their children. So using technology and is can sometimes feel risky and sometimes is very risky. So important again to stay safe out there. On that, I did include a few resources also if you want to learn more, particularly as it relates to AI around issues of safety. So a few links in here to Missing Exploited Children's website, Better Business Bureau, it's the KRU unit, Children's Advertising Review Unit. These are folks that are like watchdogs, right, for bad players. And then also Common Sense Media, which I know parents, you might use it for things like appropriate programs and movies and things of that nature. And then, of course, there are trends, right? So things that, sure, at some point, these things are going to be incredibly outdated, but definitely worth looking at now. So there's the 2025 AI Education Trends Report, how people are really using generative AI now, which I've referenced as I talked earlier about using it for companionship now as the number one use of generative AI. And then more in the workplace, super agency in the workplace, empowering people to unlock AI's full potential. So covered a lot of ground here. And I normally do not love talking this much. Um, so I thank you for bearing with me, but also for going on this journey and allowing me to play back the journey that I went on as I walked through using a chat to figure out how to come up with great prompts for student parents. You don't have time to do it, right? But if you do, now you know hopefully ways in which you can improve that experience. And you will also get all these prompts if you've registered for this webinar. We've got your email, and we'll be able to send you this handbook, a playbook of the prompts that were created in these areas. So again, I thank you all for joining today, taking time out to listen in. And if you want to learn more about the lab, please visit the website, connect with us, and join our innovator network. And also follow our work around student parents through SPORG, SPORG.org. Thanks again, everybody, and have a great rest of your day.